Well, guys, here is Into the Radius. Beautiful game. I love the controls. I love the guns. I love damn near everything about this game. I have done what? First two missions you can only do single. Then you get one that's got 3 in it. Yeah, it can be a difficult game. Oh, before we head out, I want to get food. You always need food. As you can see, I've not done super lot of missions, but I've gained up enough money to have enough ammunition to do me for a while. Some ammunition I don't need. Yeah, but we're getting there. So we'll take 2 cans of food and candy bar and an energy drink. Still an excellent game. Do I not have a...
After discovering whatever the secret to life is, it's not really explained. It's kind of implied to be some sort of chemical process. But there's also mentions of galvanism or early concepts of electricity.
Yeah, I'll take this, because if I do lose it, it's not a big deal. I've got 2 heals. I got plenty of heals that I bought. I'll find a better spot for them later, but as of right now, that's the best place. Yeah, plenty of magazines. Yeah, let's go. We're gonna do this. Sleep till morning. You don't want to be in the radius at night. It's not fun. Not fun for you, not fun for me, not fun for anyone.
So he spends his day studying at university, and then the night goes out and begins to cut up pieces of people before bringing them back to his small college dorm and stitching them together.
Am I getting attacked?
And begins neglecting his classes and courses. After all, it seems that he's learned more than they can ever teach him. Frankenstein remained in this state for about a year, constantly bringing in new pieces of bodies and
Have to be.
in such a way to study them and then watch how his experiments would react with the body and how it would affect the whole. He took detailed notes over all of this, thinking himself to be the next great philosopher. As he begins to put pieces of this creature together, he begins to insert whatever this elixir of life is. And after months and months of toiling, in November, something happens. One night while working on the motionless figure, life floods into him. Victor watches as it opens a single yellow eye. It's in this moment, having finally achieved what he set out to do, that Victor has a moment of clarity. See, before, Victor was entirely obsessed with this concept of being able to raise the dead and create
It's in my game.
a new grade of creation. However, despite him wanting to
I don't know if it's me.
birth is more akin to a devil. He looks across the creature and sees what he's done, for the first time recognizing its stretched, leathery skin across its enormous form, causing every muscle and artery to burst out. Its long black hair is matted and lifeless, and its deep black lips show no signs of life, but move regardless. Set within these lips are these perfectly
Yeah, it had to be me hungry. Okay.
but set within this uncanny creature creates an abomination. And with all of this being carried by yellow eyes in massive form, Victor
Yep.
realizes that he's created Frankenstein's monster. Victor goes into a sort of delirium over this, and he rushes to his bed and quickly falls asleep. He had been awake for days working at this point, and it's almost like the creation of the monster itself was a sort of dream that he hoped he could wake up from. While laying in his bed, he has a dream of Elizabeth, and he holds her in his arms, finally recognizing that that was the happiness he should have been chasing. However, In the dream, as he's holding Elizabeth, she slowly transforms into the rotting
Closest one's that way.
rotting carcass that he's holding is more akin to the dream that he decided to chase rather than the one he should have. Victor awakens from this dream in a cold sweat, confused as he's not able
There's
to
an enemy
tell
over
what's
there.
going on. But then reality makes itself known, as through the darkness of the night, Victor peers at the end of his bed, and peeking through the curtains is the smiling dead face of the monster he made.
Does this regenerate? If it does, that's insane.
Into the courtyard of the dormitory. He spends the night in
It's acting like it does.
back and forth in the courtyard, waiting for the groundskeeper to come unlock the gate for the morning. Throughout the night, Victor tries to convince himself that the face and the monster he saw in his storm was a figment of his imagination.
Attention. This is UNPSC emergency guidance recording L1-61. If you are listening to this, you are most likely suffering from one or more of the following conditions: a sense of displacement, disorientation, memory loss, ataxia, and visual auditory hallucinations. Please remain calm. You are experiencing the adverse effects of prolonged exposure to the Pechorsk radius. This recording was placed here by the UNPSC to guide affected personnel to safety. Inside this emergency cache, you will find a basic survival kit that will get you to the nearest...
Henry says he can't wait to see Victor's storm, and that is when the horror seeps back into Victor's heart.
Looks like I gotta go all the way over here too. Take as little damage as possible.
Victor would imagine the creature is still in there. So whenever Victor and Henry come to the dorm building,
I'm streaming.
he tells Henry to wait out front while he goes and prepares the room. Victor goes upstairs, opens the door, and the monster is gone. Victor is over the moon about this. The entire day he was trying to convince himself that it was never real, and now it seems that he was right. So he has Henry come upstairs, and Victor just begins laughing and cheering. Henry asks Victor what this is about because this is unusual to say the least. And as Victor is cheering, his mind begins to flood with images of what he made and the terrors that he saw. It's as if spending years in graveyards and hacking up dead bodies never affected him until this moment. See, before, it's as if he was filled with a desire and a passion that made him
Well, that wasn't even...
apprehension. And now that that desire and passion is gone, all that's left is the terror he's created. So as he's in the dorm with Henry, he begins to imagine the monster appearing in front of him and seizing and grabbing him, as Victor begins to scream and fight back against a monster that isn't there. From this, Victor falls asleep for the next couple days, and Henry takes care of him. Whenever Victor awakes, he's experiencing a severe fever, but regardless, Henry is staying by his side. I should mention that the specific setup that Victor had is he had the entry room to his dorm where his bed was, and then there was a second room adjoined in it where he did his experiments on the monster. So whenever Victor comes to after waking up, he asks Henry what Henry's been doing, and Henry mentions that he's cleaned up that extra room. Henry asks Victor what he could have possibly been doing, as everything in the room was covered in blood and sinew. And Victor's just like, oh, you know, college. See, at this point, Victor is almost in a state of denial about the creature that was made. And he's certainly not going to tell his best friend about the atrocities that he's done. So Victor just says nebulous things, like he doesn't feel that he should remain at his work, or he's gone too far with his studies. And Henry just considers what Victor says to be mad ramblings, and stays by his friend's side. During this time, Henry tells Victor that while he's very proud of him and thinks Victor should continue his work, he wishes that he didn't have to, ignore all of his friends and family back home. With that, he gives Victor a letter that was written by Elizabeth for Victor. In her letter, Elizabeth talks of how much she misses Victor, and how much his absence has been a weary part of her life. She knows that he's taking part in the studies and doesn't want to slow him down, but remarks that it would be nice if he could ride back every now and then. Again, Victor had ignored all of this with his dedication to the monster, or at least the experiment that would eventually become the monster. In her letter, Elizabeth also remarks that a maid by the name of Justine has come to live with them since Victor left, and how she's essentially become the new mother of the household, and everyone loves Justine's presence. With this, Victor becomes renewed and begins to write letters back home, gets back into his college courses, and Waldman, the professor from earlier who managed to encourage Victor along the path of natural philosophy, sees Victor again and remarks
I don't have to have anything to do with that. That's good.
and how astute of a student Victor is. And all of this hurts Victor inside because while at one time this loved in life more than anything else, simply hearing about chemicals or ideas of alchemy and necromancy now made him physically ill. Henry sees this and begins removing all attributes of science or alchemy or Victor's other previous enjoyments away from the door. And Henry begins teaching Victor about the classes he's taking in things like Middle Eastern history and Arabic languages. The unsung hero of this story is Henry. That guy is a great friend at every opportunity. Also in my crazy case to jump to, people building giant abominations to God, I forgot to mention some story elements. One of those being that Victor has a younger brother. Technically he has two younger brothers, William and Ernest, but Ernest just kind of disappears from the narrative at some point and doesn't really impact the plot, whereas William, Victor's youngest brother, absolutely impacts the plot. That is because, as Victor and Henry are living together and going about their studies, they receive another letter from Elizabeth. In this letter, Elizabeth informs them that William has been killed. He was only about 6 years old and found strangled to death in a park in Frankenstein state. Initially, Victor reads the letter and is immediately overcome with emotion. And the way the story explains what happens next is Henry asks what's wrong, and Victor just hands him the letter and immediately empathize with Victor. The bond between these two is often overlooked, and one of the things that I feel is most often lost in future adaptations. That and overarching concepts of morality and, meaning, but that's besides the point. So Henry tells Victor that he should go home and be with his family, and Henry will stay here to keep everything in check. So Victor travels by carriage to his home. Keep in mind this journey takes several days. During this time, Victor is thinking of his foolishness to neglect his family, and what kind of monster could have killed a young child. By the time he arrives to his home village, the gates are not yet open as it's too early. So Victor instead travels to the park where usually William was murdered. At the same time this is happening, a storm is brewing. So as Victor investigates the site of his brother's murder, thunder and rain begin to fall. As Victor is searching for what kind of creature could have done this,
So follow this way. I should be able to hit that house and stuff over there too.
watching him from behind the trees. As soon as Victor sees him,
Oh!
he immediately turns around and scampers away up the rock face. Victor is overcome with grief because he realizes that the monster killed William. In fact, Victor killed William. And it's at this point that he realizes the memories that he had repressed and kept hidden away in his mind for over a year now are all real. Understandably troubled by this, he runs home to his family's side. His father, and especially Elizabeth, are thrilled to see him. However, the family has more troubling news. They say that not only has their younger brother William been murdered, but the culprit is the maid Justine. The family is broken by this, and Victor asks what the evidence could be, as Victor knows who the true culprit is. And they said that a pendant of their mother, which William was wearing when he was murdered, was found in the pocket of Justine. Despite these odd circumstances, Victor, having directly viewed the monster, knows that it was the monster's doing. It's no coincidence that the monster he made in Germany just so happened to be back here in Switzerland at the site of his brother's murder. So Victor declares to everyone that Justine is surely innocent, but he's still too afraid to admit to what he's done, so he doesn't go any further. The family says that they hope he's right and that Justine will be cleared of the charges. At this point, Victor wishes that he could confess, but for one, thinks no one would believe him, and two, fears what would happen to him if they did believe him. So, a trial for Justine is held, and throughout the trial, Justine not only maintains her innocence, but her kindness as well. Several witnesses of character come forward and talk of how sweet of a soul she is. Justine continuously states how much she loved the Frankenstein family and would never do anything to hurt them, especially William, who she practically raised as her own son. However, as mentioned, the evidence is damning, as the only way it seems that pendant could have wound up in her pocket is if she had killed William herself. And whenever asked about the pendant, she simply says she has no idea how it could have gotten in there, but that's the truth. Throughout the trial, Victor is sick, as you can imagine, watching an innocent person go through a tribulation that he created. While in prison, the jailers begin to torment Justine, saying that she'll surely go to hell if she doesn't confess, and that there's no church or no priest that will ever allow her to see the gates if she doesn't admit to what she's done. In fear for her soul, Instead, he's ready to fight it. I mean, surely if he created this beast, then he has the ability to destroy it. And Victor is now resolved to lure this thing into the open so that he can end what he started. So Victor travels to France and begins to climb Mount Montever. He does this because Victor assumes the monster is following him, and perhaps if he can get into a secluded place away from prying eyes, he'll finally confront him. And while standing there at the top of the mountain, ready to face off against his creation, monster appears. I perceived, as the shape came near, sight tremendous and abhorrent, that it was the wretch whom I had forgiven. I trembled with rage and horror, resolving to wait his approach and then close with him in mortal combat. He approached, his countenance bespoke bitter anguish, combined with disdain and malignity, while its unearthly ugliness rendered it almost too horrible for human eyes. But I scarcely observed this. Rage and hatred had at first deprived me of utterance, and I recovered only to overwhelm him with words expressive of furious detestation and contempt. Devil, I exclaimed, do you dare approach me, and do not you fear the fierce vengeance of my arm wreaked on your miserable head? Begone, vile insect, or rather stay, that I may trample you to dust, and oh, that I could, with the extinction of your miserable existence, restore those victims whom you have so diabolically murdered. Despite the size and scale of this creature, Frankenstein is ready to end his own life if it means the destruction of this monster as well. But to his surprise, the monster does not fight, it does not run, it does not cower. Instead, it speaks. I expected this reception, said the demon. All men hate the wretched. How then must I
Because
behave?
his team lost
Beyond
with
all living things. Yet you, my creator,
it.
I don't think so, but
creature, to whom thou art bound by ties only dissoluble by the annihilation of one of us. You purpose to kill me? How dare you speak thus with life? Do your duty towards me, and I will do mine towards you and the rest of mankind. If you will comply with my conditions, I will leave them and you in peace. If you refuse, I will let the maw of death until it be satiated with the blood of your remaining friends. This is not what anyone was expecting. The monster speaks, and it not only speaks in this garbled, broken tone as we may assume, it speaks with elegance and purpose. In the years since this monster was created, it has adapted itself to potentially the level of mankind. Here it speaks to Frankenstein, not only with purpose, and not only telling him that he has a duty as the creator to the monster himself, that if Frankenstein does not
Oh, we forgot the bundle that came with the NFL one too.
continue his torment with Frankenstein's remaining friends.
I'm not.
Frankenstein responds,
Me personally, I'm not really worried about NFL. That's you.
Yeah,
"Why
don't
not?"
worry.
The
I
monster
just wanna
swiftly
play my team.
avoids his attacks and continues speaking.
I mean, NFL games always seem to be trash.
I just
And
want
eventually appeals to Frankenstein's pathos as a creator.
say that.
Remember that I am thy creature. I ought to be thy Adam, and I rather the fallen angel, whom thou drivest from joy for no misdeed. Everywhere I see bliss, from which I alone am irrevocably excluded. I was benevolent and good. Misery made me a fiend. Make me happy, and I shall again be virtuous. From this, we see that the monster isn't only intelligent, but he's also studied. He refers to himself as Frankenstein's
How
Adam,
much money
or
for it?
more so, he's supposed to be his Adam, but is instead his fallen angel, his Satan. And he simply asks that his creator grant him a request. Eventually, through the monster's conversation, Frankenstein stops trying to punch it. And the monster asks for Frankenstein to join him back at a cave he's
YouTube?
been living in,
Yeah?
so that he can hear the monster's tale. Of course, Frankenstein wants to know how his creature came to be, so he complies. So Frankenstein and the monster sit within a cave, and the monster begins to tell Victor his own story. The monster says that when he was first created, he was essentially an infant. He was able to move and had basic emotions, but no means of higher order thinking. He says he remembers being created on a cold night, before stumbling into the streets and eventually the forest of the town he was created in. All that the monster had with him was a coat he took from the doorway where he was made. stumbled about in the woods, experiencing the first sensations of nature, and the monster thought it beautiful. He would listen to the songbirds and the ravens, and begin to try to mimic the noises they were making back to them. He would touch water and feel the warmth of the sun, and begin to understand sensation. However, he would occasionally come across a person, and every time that he did, they looked on him with terror. They would throw rocks at him, they would yell and curse and try to hit him. The monster understood none of this and began to remove himself more and more from places where people congregate, until eventually the monster found a cottage alone in the countryside. Next to this cottage was a derelict shack that it seems no one had entered in years. So one night, under the cover of darkness, the monster went into this shack, and it is from there that the majority of his story takes place. The shack had a small hole in the wall that allowed the monster to see into the living room of the cottage, and it is from there that his understanding of humanity began. Inside of this small cottage lives 3 people. Again, at this time, the monster does not understand language or know their names, but he would eventually come to know them as a young boy named Felix, his sister Agatha, and their father, who they simply referred to as Father. Day after day, the monster would watch these 3, and he would begin to try to mimic the noises they made towards each other,
Yes,
like brother
honey.
and sister. During this time, he also begins to recognize human emotions. The monster itself had felt sadness and
Like
joy
an all
whenever
lover,
it saw
huh?
the wonders of nature or was attacked by townspeople, and he recognizes those same emotions mirrored on the 3 people in the cottage. For example, at one point, the monster eats a lot of their food supplies because he doesn't understand that that's theirs and he's stealing. And whenever
Jeff.
he sees some of their food is missing,
Jeff?
he understands the sadness that comes over them. So the monster
Are you
tries
mad
to
at
help
me?
the best he can. He watches the
Are you
brothers
mad at me?
Wow.
go out every day and gather firewood
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
next to the
Why are you
house.
mad at me?
So,
You have
each
not
night,
joined.
The monster goes into the hillside
What
and
the
brings
heck?
back as much wood as he can and
What
leaves it
the
for the
heck?
people. He sees during the cold winter that Agatha has trouble walking out of the house whenever it snows. So the monster goes out late at night
I
and
was just
clears the
playing
snow
with you,
his
man.
heels. The family is overjoyed
I
by
was
his providence and thinks that God or some angel has been looking out for them. A sad irony in the monster's
Ooh.
reputation as a predator.
Oh, you wanna know
hold
if something
on,
worse?
Don't tell him, Chris. Don't tell him. Don't tell him. Let me tell him. Let me tell him. Jeff, you know what I did last night?
Down in front of a river and sees
Because you said that,
he himself
I went
is facing
on
back
and I betted that the Chiefs would win, and I won money.
Again, at this point, the monster doesn't remember anything of his
I
creation
know.
or how
I
he came
know.
to be like this.
But I
He
won
knows
money,
he doesn't look like everyone else.
and I told you
However,
first
despite
half
this,
they were
the
gonna win,
monster's most pressing issue is his
and then
concept
second
of
half.
Mm.
next to an
Mm.
and as something that has emotions in the mind of man, there is no fate more terrible. So the monster becomes determined to communicate with humanity
Stop
and learn
being
of humanity
sleepy.
itself. He begins to listen intently and try to understand
No, I died. Really far away from home.
things like their names and what a cottage is.
Oh, I'm playing my VR game.
However, the monster's true education would come when a new guest arrived at the cottage. One day, a beautiful young woman by the name of Safi showed up at the house. And for the first time,
I don't need your attitude.
excitement as the entire family was
I died with good shit on me. And it's so far away.
story is that Safi was Arabic, and more so couldn't speak English and didn't understand European customs. So every day, he would
Oh yeah, that'd be nice.
and have lessons on English.
No vehicles.
Of course, the monster who is behind Safi in the shed of the cottage is also
Jeff, I
receiving
invited
same
you to
lessons.
football.
It is here that the monster began to actually
Mhm.
properly learn English.
Are you guys gonna verse each other on football? Wow.
Yep.
Speak at a higher degree. He learned more details from this. For example, the father of the family, who he now knows to be the DeLacy family, is blind. Felix
Roxy,
also teaches Safi
where'd you
of
go?
the Bible, and from that, the monster hears the entire story of
I
creation,
won't let you in.
fall of man, redemption, and the rest of human history. The monster constantly remarks how amazing it is to him that the same
Okay, hold on.
humanity
Let me leave
who is
session. Let me
capable of
re-invite you.
creating
How about that?
empires and saving millions of
Oh, you
lives
invited him to an actual like thing?
Oh. No, it says play a friend. I clicked on that. Invite him.
The monster begins to understand However, he remarks how this is all the more tragic because he alone
Yeah, probably.
exists outside of that humanity. He knows everything about them. He understands the language. He understands
Did
their
you-
stories, but he can't
Okay,
interact.
hold on. I backed out of it because you said it didn't go.
As
There.
a matter of fact,
Back in.
despite learning all of this from Felix, they are still separated by the wall of the cottage. There's a philosophy that is brought up a lot throughout the story. Not only the monster's recounting of his own experience, but in Victor describing his experiments as well. And that is the concept of the base and the reward.
See, I've heard you're bad, but you know, I figured we could just have a friendly game, you know. It doesn't have to be like Chris, you know. He gets all mad and butthurt.
I don't get mad or butthurt.
Just a friendly game. If you win, you win. You know, I'm not gonna be butthurt about it.
No, they're they're sore winners, is what it is.
Alright, now.
They,
Oh my.
And one of the debates that occurs throughout the narrative, which I'll talk about more at the end, is the concept that perhaps this monster is human, but is more of a base human.
sore winners. A lot of you.
Having that chance to grow, he exists in a constant primal state of being. However, the other side of this coin is that Victor, looking to excel his own self,
Dude, I love the
step up to God,
Buckeyes.
is no different than
Hell
Adam in
yeah.
the garden, or the Tower of Babel, and other historic
Yeah.
examples of basic people trying to rise to a height that they were never meant to. And it is the first concept that we'll see brought up more later of Frankenstein and his monster being more alike than either would care to admit. Also during this time, he learns the story of how
Yeah, it was an incentive for him.
and who Sappy is. And to be honest,
Is
it's
it
not
the-
entirely relevant.
Chris,
for
is it the
summary
3-4
of it.
multiple
So,
or the
short
4-3
version
playbook that I
is
like?
that
I like the
Sappy's
4-3 myself.
Okay.
and is from Arabia. Had the DeLacy's, or at least Felix.
I like 4-3. I just feel like it's got enough. It evens it out really good. It's enough for a decent blitz, and it's enough for a good coverage on the backfield. I don't know. I always have liked the 4-3.
Sappy's hand in marriage.
And when you do the fucking full man blitz, it's like everybody up front.
Exiled him.
It's an overwhelming.
The three DeLacy's.
So they really have to get that screen off if they're gonna make that screen worthwhile.
Have been living in this cottage for several years.
Get out of the window.
Since that betrayal, which is why they were so happy.
You oughta hear Nick. I'm honestly not super good at football
when
at all.
Nick gets on, Jeff, I'm watching you two verse.
Practical application of the
I have
concepts
to see it.
he's been learning. He learns of love and romance, which is, again, a new concept to him between Sappy and Felix. He learns of base humanity or betrayal whenever Sappy's father went
Fucking tell me about it.
and he sees sadness and reunion and other human emotions. During this
Completing a pass is damn near impossible unless it's a slant route.
also provides 3 books. These books are Plutarch's The Lives of Ancient Greeks and Romans, Goethe's
Roxy, what are you doing?
Songs of Young Werther, or Werther, I guess, since he was German, and Milton's Paradise Lost. Which,
Jesus.
through these stories, the monster learns of tragedy and mythology and these great tales of humanity's capability of rising and falling. But the one that he takes the most interest in is Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost excited different and far deeper emotions. I read it as I had read the other volumes which had fallen into my hands.
Chris will verse you with one team, and then if he loses, he'll hurry up and try to switch to a different team, and then another team, and then he just keeps going through. Alright, I'm gonna let you know it's been a minute since I played.
By no link to any other being in existence, his state was far different from mine in every other respect.
I haven't versed Chris in a long time.
A perfect creature, happy and prosperous, guarded by the special care of his creator. He was allowed to converse with
It's not been that long.
knowledge from beings
We actually
Yeah, it
played.
was.
We actually played last week.
helpless and alone.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, we did. I asked you if you wanted to play.
Is the bitter emblem of my condition.
Not last week.
For often, like him, when I viewed the
Okay.
list of my protectors, bitter gall of envy rose within me. Which, if you watch
Trying
my
to make my ass whipping sound a lot worse than they are.
how giddy with excitement I was at hearing this from the monster. While he remarks that he shouldn't be like Adam, he feels more akin to Satan.
black helmets on.
But we'll talk about that later. But the monster's beginning to develop these ideas himself and begin to ask.
I like Kentucky's chrome helmets.
Boom!
At this point, while considering this in the shed of the cottage, the monster remembered
Nah.
that he has some letters from his creator in the pocket of the coat he took. Remember, on the night of his creation, it was cold, and he instinctually wrapped himself in the coat, and that coat still remains with him. He had found the journal of whoever his creator was sometime before, but he was yet
Well, fucking let me know when your line wants to block for you.
published by Felix. He is now able to read the journal.
Oh!
While reading the journals, the monster begins to
Damn.
despise Frankenstein. The monster
Oh, look at our guys are gonna
how
fight.
this Frankenstein wanted to build something just so
He
could.
like shoved you.
His journal noted the disfigured proportions of it and how it looks so different from humanity and how its ghastly form would be given life. And while reading the journal, the monster begins to hate this Frankenstein who he's never met for creating
Yeah.
for no reason more self-gratification and ignorance. So at this point, the monster's emotions are ready to snap, and he decides that he is going to make his intent now to connect with humanity before he begins to despise them forever. And he wants to do that by finally speaking
I don't know. I think I'm just bad. I can't do nothing with Georgia. I can't do nothing. But now I can play online.
The father is alone in the living room. The monster steps out of the shed and into the cottage.
Oh shit, you're kicking
Who
it?
is there? Said the old man. Come in. I enter. Pardon this intrusion. Would greatly oblige me if you would allow me to remain a few minutes before the fire. Enter, said Lacey, and I will try in what manner I can to
I'm sorry. I'm going for that, man. I don't care. I refuse.
To procure food for you. Do not trouble yourself, my kind host. I have food. It is
I mean, it's an option, right?
I sat down and the silence ensued. I knew that every minute was precious to me. Resolute,
I'm playing college football, not American coach simulator.
by your language, stranger. I suppose you are my countryman. Friend,
Ooh,
but
oh,
educated by a French family. And understand
I
that
totally got trapped in between your guys there.
protection of some friends whom I sincerely love, and whose favor I have
I managed to get away from the one guy, but then,
They are French. Let us change the subject. I am an unfortunate and deserted creature. I look around and I have no relation or friend upon earth. These amiable people to whom I go have never seen me and know little of me. I am full of fear.
Do what?
For if I fell there,
yo, Nick runs more than anything.
the two continue.
Nick's like every first down is a
Oh,
run.
No, I had that.
He hopes will look on him with
You son of a gun.
is only known to them as
He's actually pretty decent.
as a friend. The blind man's
At least
Nick is
against
good.
me, he is.
put away their prejudice.
Nick whoops Chris's ass.
However,
Chris has not beaten Nick one time.
who this family is.
I like how she's just straight up talking shit about me. Like, that's real nice.
At the knees of the father, he begins to cry.
Well, I'm not gonna apologize when I've whooped his ass more times than he's whooped mine.
The door swings open.
No, we're actually pretty even on that one,
No,
but still.
Oh, oh,
She won't tell you that story.
Oh God.
Do what?
Safi runs away.
Well, that's the story right there.
Seriously, I'm waiting. When I see that 600 hours, man.
Misery. So in that
As soon as I see 599, I'm forcing you.
he had spent over a year listening and living next to these people, but they never knowing of his existence. After
Wow.
a couple days of mulling it over, he thinks, well, maybe if I stand at a distance and begin
You know what? I didn't see you score either.
to go up,
I just want you to know that. You don't have a score.
so he makes his way back to the cottage and gets there just in time to see the
You know what?
Delacys are
You didn't score.
Now, we can look at this story with tragedy and say, oh, how sorrowful it is they didn't accept him. If you saw an 8-foot
Ah!
giant dead
Alright, you scored now. You got that now.
house, would you be like, oh, well, good thing we have a guest room?
I'm not even
Tragic,
running
but
for it.
understandable from both perspectives.
One time, I was just falling over on purpose for Chris.
Sees the people who he wanted to treat nicely look on him with hatred. So as soon as the family leaves, the monster burns down the cottage. With It's the
Well,
final act of removing himself from the
well,
experience
you
of
know,
the man now resides
I,
in the notes that Frankenstein had left in the
oh
monster's
no.
coat pocket. He had remarked that he was from Geneva. So now the monster was determined to find his creator and either get
See,
answers from him or
I
destroy
went
him.
for a blitz on
So the
that one
monster
because I have
begins
trust
his way
issues
through
because of
Geneva.
Chris.
Along the way,
He tries to
begins
go for those
mull over
2-point
in his mind.
conversions
Perhaps
80% of the
it's for
time.
adults and people who have grown bitter of the world who are
Not
unable
80% of the time Chris
he
goes
decides
for
to
it, so I have
exit
trust
his concept.
issues.
When while
I
traveling
go for it when I'm down, which is what a 2-point conversion is for.
begins to drown. The monster quickly jumps into the river, picks her up, and brings her to shore. And the 5-year-old girl begins screaming and crying, as one can imagine. And her guardian, who was looking for her at the time, sees her being held by a giant 8-foot-tall dead thing, and as one would do, shoots it with the
We say way worse to each other.
Maybe children would be more understanding, and he helps a child and is screamed and shot at. So
We don't
that
have
all
feelings
that
here.
thought. Finally, the monster continues his travels and makes it to Geneva. While there, he is looking about in the woods for the Frankenstein.
Well, that's just how I was raised. My dad said way worse to me. My grandma said way worse to me than any of you
What
folks
the
could.
frick? I had that in the bag.
Yeah, I'm done.
Immediately begins screaming and yelling.
It's in his hands. What is he doing?
As the monster is holding the boy, he begins to threaten the monster, telling him to let him go because his father, Mr. Frankenstein, is a respected man and will have him.
Those will,
Hearing the word Frankenstein,
you can't run zone on these games. You want me to tell you what to do? Your best bet is to run cover 2 man.
You ain't gotta tell me what to do. Don't worry, you only got 7 points. I got this.
Well, I didn't literally. Yeah, you're running the same play, ain't you?
That wasn't the same play.
Yes, it was. It's the exact same
No,
route.
it wasn't. The last one was a
The monster says he's temporarily overcome with her beauty and form and decides to take the pendant from the boy. The monster then leaves and decides to sleep in a barn loft in the next town over. As he begins to lay down, he sees that there's a beautiful young woman sleeping in the loft as well. He looks at her form and her beauty and becomes filled with rage once again as he realizes the beauty and love of a woman is something that he'll never experience. So as yet another act
I
of
like dump
misanthropy,
passes.
he takes the